Part 79. Three Kingdoms, I Have a Job Transfer Palace. Author, Strong Wine Burns the Heart. Chapter 783. The camp where the Jin soldiers are stationed is still a certain distance away from Yingtian Mansion. The time required to go back and forth plus the time required to attack the opponent will take almost 10 days. It took almost 3 or 4 days to arrive at the place where the enemy troops were stationed. It could be said to be a desert. Except for a small oasis around it, the rest of the place was desolate. Although he had promised Song Litsong to kill one of Jin Bing's camps first, Lu Feng knew very well that the emperor actually had some thoughts. When he proposed this condition before, Song Litsong didn't even say that he would send people to support Lu Feng, which meant that he was still making things difficult for Lu Feng, or that he didn't believe that he could have such abilities, so he was unwilling to send people. People go over to support so as not to waste troops. However, this is fine. Taking down the opponent's military camp by just relying on one's own strength can also show the strength. After observing the terrain, I rested here for half a day and decided to take action in the evening. Night is always a time for trouble, no matter what era it is in. Moreover, Lu Feng still has 50 Longwu soldiers under his command, so it is not difficult to destroy this military camp in one go. Let the 50 dragon soldiers prepare an ambush during the day. When night falls and everyone is tired, that is, when they relax their vigilance, they start to take action. Huang Zhong serves as a cover and quietly shoots arrows in the dark, which can achieve the purpose of quietly destroying the enemy. The other 50 dragon warriors took advantage of the enemy's relaxation of vigilance to lurk in and directly assassinate the opponent. This method is very effective, and in less than 3 minutes, the other party's business has been successfully eliminated. Before the enemy generals in this military camp even had time to react, they found that all the soldiers around them had been assassinated. Moreover, the enemy's assassination techniques were very clever, and they also paid attention to sureness and ruthlessness in their attacks. Basically, they were all assassinated. Just slit his throat and die. At this time, Lu Feng appeared in front of the other party. Lu Feng did not intend to kill the general directly, but came to the opponent and asked directly, "What is your name?" However, the opponent did not answer directly, but stared at Lu Feng fiercely, as if he wanted to. "I want to kill him to death. You don't Euro trademark T have to answer my questions, but I will carve words on your back and describe everything that happened tonight. If you can bear the pain, then you can do it yourself." After saying that, Lu Feng was ready to let his men do this. Seeing that the other party was really willing to take action, the other general could only quickly say, "It is killable and cannot be humiliated. If you do this, you will receive retribution. I never wanted to insult you, I just wanted to ask you something, but you didn't cooperate with me at all, so you can't blame me." Wang Yan's the other party responded immediately. "Okay, I want you to meet someone with me. Don't Euro trademark T worry, you have become a prisoner now. I will ensure your life is safe and no one will hurt you, but I hope you can cooperate with me well. Only in this way, only then can you save your life and return to your big gold." "What do you want me to do?" Wang Yans began to feel that something was wrong. Three Kingdoms, I Have a Job Transfer Palace. Author, Strong Wine Burns the Heart. Chapter 784. I will take you to see Song Litsong for no other reason than to let you tell him what happened tonight. As long as you cooperate with me, I will let you go back intact. As soon as he said this, Wang Yan's face changed immediately. "No, how can you guarantee my life if you take me to see the emperor of the southern Song dynasty? Do you think I'm stupid? I am a person who always sticks to my word, and it is hard to keep my promise. Since it is something I promised you, I will never break my promise. You can choose not to believe me, but now there are only 2 situations, either cooperate or get tattooed, you choose one." Lu Feng doesn't want to waste more time here. After all, It still takes 3 or 4 days to go back to Yingtian Mansion from here. If it really takes more than 10 days, then there is no way to get military power in a logical way. So simple his attitude made Wang Yan's feel a sense of oppression. The other party did not give him any choice, let alone room for negotiation. But the tattoo on the back had the word, and what happened tonight must be more than just 1 or 2 words. I can finish what I said, so just thinking about it can tell how painful it is. In such a situation, there is basically no choice but to cooperate. Seeing that the other party did not speak, Lu Feng acquiesced. The other party agreed to cooperate. After a night's rest tonight, Huang Zhong and Guan Yu were asked to escort Wang Yanci back the next day. Returning to Yingtian Mansion, when Song Litsong saw Lu Feng appearing in front of him intact, everyone was very shocked. And there were 3 other people beside him. Judging from their behavior at the scene, you can tell their identities. Your Majesty, I have taken down a military camp as you requested. This is Wang Yan's, the general of that military camp. I brought it here specifically for you to ask him what exactly happened that night. Actually, before coming here, Lu Feng had already made it very clear to Wang Yan's, just talking about Lu Feng and the 2 strong generals next to him. As for the 50 soldiers who appeared at that time, just treat them as anything. It never happened. Song Litsong stepped forward and asked, is what Lu Feng just said true? It is absolutely true that that night he directly attacked my military camp and killed all my soldiers. Although he had chosen to cooperate, when he said these words, it could still be heard that Wang Yan's was still very unhappy. When Song Litsong heard this, he completely believed what Lu Feng said. Okay, since you have fulfilled our agreement, I will let you gain military power and confer you the title of General Ping Chuan. I hope that I can really repel the Jin soldiers as you said. As for this Wang Yanci, he will be executed in Lingqi. No need to. Lu Feng said quickly when others gathered around him, Your Majesty, Wang Yan's is still useful to me. I need to use it to communicate with Jin Bing, so he can't die yet. Song Litsong frowned. This is an enemy general. Since they have successfully captured each other, logically they should be executed. But after hearing Lu Feng's words and his firm attitude, Song Litsong it felt a little difficult for a while. After all, this is the enemy, so we can't a Euro trademark T do it without killing. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. 3 Kingdoms, I Have a Job Transfer Palace. Author, Strong Wine Burns the Heart. Chapter 785. But when Song Litsong saw the 2 generals beside Lu Feng, he felt that he must not act rashly, otherwise his subordinates would definitely shoot him through the throat. For the sake of his life, he could only obey Lu Feng's decision now. Since General Ping Chuan has said this, I have no other opinions. I just hope you can make good use of this Wang Yanci and never waste such a good opportunity. Song Litsong had no choice but to agree to what Lu Feng said, but he did not forget to tell him that since he has arrested the person, he must make good use of it. If the opportunity is wasted, all the previous efforts will be in vain. I know without Your Majesty's advice that Your Majesty should now hand over the military power to me as agreed. Lu Feng doesn't care what Song Litsong says. He came here just to gain military power to unify the world, not to obey the emperor's orders. A mere Song Litsong is not qualified to make irresponsible remarks in front of him. Of course, I will definitely keep my promise, but I will ask General Ping Chuan to go to court tomorrow morning. I will hand over the military power to you in front of everyone, otherwise it will be difficult to convince the people. As an emperor, Song Litsong will of course be responsible for what he says, and he will not hesitate to give out what he should give, but this matter concerns the military power of the country, so it must be carried out in the early morning. In desperation, Lu Feng could only promise him that he would definitely go to court tomorrow and take over the military power from Song Litsong in front of all the civil and military officials. This procedure cannot be omitted, otherwise, all the civil and military officials of the dynasty would definitely have objections. When the time comes, the generals will lead the soldiers below if they don't obey the orders. If a team doesn't obey the orders, fortunately, if the entire army doesn't obey the orders, even Lu Feng won't be able to command them. For the sake of the long term, the most important thing is to make them obedient. But now these people don't know Lu Feng at all. All they can listen to is the imperial edict. When the morning came the next day, Lu Feng was the last one to arrive, and all the civil and military officials were watching. He looked unkind. In the eyes of these civil and military officials, Lu Feng was a person who came to seize military power and would cause harm to the country. However, such a person could not even come to the morning court on time. Why should he take their country's military power? How could the emperor trust him? The way you look at these people is wrong. Lu Feng touched his chin. He also noticed that something was wrong with the people in the court. Everyone looked at him as if they had the revenge of killing their father. Guan Yu and Huang Zhong, who followed behind him, were so aggressive that the surrounding civil servants were shocked. The generals did not dare to come forward. The civil servants disliked them more, but the generals admired them. Only the same people can cherish each other, and in the southern Song dynasty, culture was valued over martial arts, so these civil servants thought they were great. Looked down upon other military generals. Guan Yu and Huang Zhong were actually generals with both civil and military skills, but in the eyes of these scholars, as long as you have a sword in your hand, you are not the same as them. This inevitably led to the entire Song dynasty becoming very he is weak and cannot be defeated by anyone, so he can only keep cutting off territory and paying compensation. Now in the court, the civil servants unconsciously stay away, deliberately keeping distance, with disgust on their faces, and do not want to get close. 3 Kingdoms, I Have a Job Transfer Palace. Author, Strong Wine Burns the Heart. Chapter 786. Lu Feng saw that these ministers did not welcome him very much, but he didn't care at all. In the future, he would make a big change for these people. It didn't matter whether they liked it or not. He would never allow his dynasty to do such a boneless and weak thing by ceding territory and paying compensation. Those civil servants are all combination faction, and no civil servant wants to fight. What they always think about is the so-called peace bought by the so-called indemnity to comfort themselves for the time being, and nothing happens. The military generals here are all warring factions. They wanted to fight the Jin soldiers and Mongolian soldiers, but every time they failed because of the collective opposition of the civil servants. Song Litsong always stood on the side of the civil servants, which also led to the skills of the military generals. Nowhere to display. My dear friends, this is General Ping Chuan whom I just named. He made a bet with me before and easily captured a military camp of elite soldiers within 10 days. He is really very capable. Now he is planning to use all his military power. Leave it to him. What do all the lovers think? Song Litsong asked the civil and military officials to give him advice in the court, but in fact he just wanted to go through a formality and say a few words to the civil and military officials before issuing an imperial edict. He did not really need their opinions. The civil and military officials. The official was silent for a moment. Song Litsong planned to ask the eunuch next to him to take out the imperial edict, formally read out the imperial edict, and declare to the world that from now on, Lu Feng would be General Ping Chuan, possessing all military power, and all generals in the world would obey him. His dispatch. Wait. Your Majesty, there is no need to be so anxious. We have not yet spoken to this general named Lu Feng. We are not familiar with him. Who are his parents? Where is your native place? A civil servant with a goatee and a red robe came out. He looked at Lu Feng with very disdain. It seemed that for a person like him, Lu Feng's appearance was a mistake. He asks such a question, it is understandable for others. This is just asking in detail who Lu Feng is. Even the generals on the side want to know this question. Lu Feng looked at him, but felt that this person was very boring. What the emperor meant, they were willing to give all their troops to him, but this man still stood up and said so much nonsense. He raised his head and glanced at Song Litsong. His eyes were full of trust in this man. It seemed that the monarch and his ministers had been working together for a long time. During the period of Song Litsong, there is indeed such a person, who collared the court with him, and made Song Litsong a cowardly king. This complicit person is called Jia Sidao. He was born as an ordinary low-level official, and his biological mother was just his father's concubine. No matter how you look at it, his background was very low-level. However, life is unpredictable. Jia Sidao became a jinchi in the second year of Jiaxi and was valued by Litsong of the Song dynasty. Later, he used Beizanga Bachelor as a deputy envoy along the river, and was appointed as the governor of Zhangzhou. He also served as the pacifier of Jiangnan West Road. After that, he was constantly transferred and rose through the ranks, until he became a bachelor of Jiabao Wenj. It can be said that he rose from the lowest level to the final position of a highly respected minister, and even later he was awarded the title of the founding Duke of Linhai County. It can be seen that Song Litsong trusted him very much, but his evaluation of this person in history was non-committal. Many people even believed that Song Litsong would not be like this without him. Lu Feng, it feels more and more like this is the person in front of me. Three Kingdoms, I have a job transfer palace. Author, Strong Wine Burns the Heart. Chapter 787. This gentleman looks familiar. Are you Jia Sidao? Through the eye contact between this man and Song Litsong, Lu Feng judged that he was the traitor Jia Sidao, so he directly confronted him and asked him directly if he was the traitor Jia Sidao. How do you know me? I don't remember seeing you outside. Jia Sidao was stunned for a moment. Although he would go out for outings, the people around him were all dignitaries and he would never interact with ordinary people. He had no idea how Lu Feng said his name. Ita Euro trademark S normal that you have never seen me, but I saw you wearing a red robe and standing at the front, so I guessed whether you were Jia Sidao. I have long heard that there is a person like you next to His Majesty. You are a famous person. Ah. Lu Feng said something weird, actually mocking him for being recorded as such a villain in history. What's interesting is that for Jia Sidao, he didn't know these things. The purple and red clothes were during the Song dynasty, there were only clothes for officials of the third rank and above, so there was a saying at that time that the Manchu dynasty was rich in color. Blue was the dress for the fourth rank, scarlet for the fifth rank, and green and cyan for the sixth and seventh rank. Today Lu Feng is here in the last court. Emperor Litsong of the Song dynasty asked someone to give him clothes in advance. The clothes given to him were purple clothes, which meant first or second grade officials. This Jia Sidao wore red clothes, maybe just because he didn't like purple, so he went to court. During the Song dynasty, red official uniforms were worn. During the Song dynasty, there was no clear indication of what pattern the official uniforms must be worn in. Only the Qing dynasty had pattern regulations. In the Song dynasty, everyone's clothes were very uniform. Different colors are used to distinguish grades. My so-called fame was given by Your Majesty. You said this in front of His Majesty to put me in a position of being unkind, unjust, and disloyal. I think you have bad intentions. I would like to inform Your Majesty, how can a person with such corrupt moral character like him? Can you control all the military power? I think he is simply too ambitious. Although Jia Sidao didn't understand what Lu Feng said just now, he intuitively thought that it was not a good thing. He turned around and reported back to Song Litsong, hoping to take back his life and not to hand over military power to such a person. There is no need to say more, bachelor. A gentleman's words are hard to catch. I have promised General Lu Feng a long time ago that I will definitely give him military power. Now that I have gone against my promise, can I still be the emperor of the world? Song Litsong looked at Huang Zhong behind Lu Feng, and he shivered in fear subconsciously. He had not forgotten how terrifying Huang Zhong's skill of piercing the yang with 100 steps was when they met for the first time. He had no doubt, if he goes back on his words now, Huang Zhong can just grab an object and blow his head off in front of all the courtiers. In the face of absolute strength, any little idea is just a joke. Song Litsong's resolute attitude also made Jia Sidao somewhat unexpectedly. He thought that he had already figured out His Majesty's thoughts, which was why he had been able to rise to the top of the imperial court for so many years. However, Song Litsong's attitude was completely opposite to his, which made him wonder whether the emperor in front of him was the right person. What kind of coercion did he receive? He glared at Lu Feng angrily, thinking that this man wanted to rebel. Otherwise, how could he not guess Song Litsong's thoughts? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Three Kingdoms, I Have a Job Transfer Palace. Author, Strong Wine Burns the Heart. Chapter 788. Lu Feng shook his head and smiled. If he knew what Jia Sidao was thinking, he would have laughed wildly on these matters and ridiculed this man for thinking too much. You have all heard His Majesty the Emperor's decree. From today on, all generals must obey my orders. If any of you are dissatisfied, you can stand up now. Don't wait until the army is assembled and set off to cause trouble for me. If any brother dies because of you, I will not let you go. Lu Feng ignored Jia Sidao's chatter. He stood at the front of all the military generals, and even ignored some military generals who were already in the first rank. His tough attitude made these generals stunned. This is the first time that someone dares to say such things in front of them. We are not those sour scholars over there. It is impossible for you to scare us with just a few words. The generals laughed. They would not be convinced just because others said a few words. If you want them to be convinced, you not only have to say it with your mouth, but also have to fight to prove that you are strong enough and can conquer them. A military commander must be a stronger one. Of course there is no problem. I have 2 men here. You can choose as you like. As long as you can defeat them, today a Euro trademark's imperial edict will be treated as if it never happened. But if you can a Euro trademark T defeat my 2 men, then I say 1 is 1. If anyone says 2, I will push him out of the Meridian Gate and behead him. Of course Lu Feng knew the tempers of the generals. They were already being squeezed in the court, and even the emperor did not use them seriously. If they were weaker, they would be even less likely to obey his orders. Without saying a word, they would just start fighting. Huang Zhong and Guan Yu took a step forward after receiving the order, standing upright in front of everyone. Looking at their menacing appearance, the generals felt fear for the first time. It took a while before the first one came. The general stood up to challenge Guan Yu. Lu Feng was speechless as he watched. This man really knows how to choose. He chose Wu Sheng from the very beginning. As generals, we can easily lift the 9 cauldrons outside one by one. If your men are compared with me, if they can't lift any of them, I will not approve it. The first general to stand up to challenge is called Li Xing. He is now a general of the 3rd rank. He refers to the place outside the palace gate, which means the 9 great tripods that determine the world. The weight of each tripod will be heavier than the previous tripod. The weight of the tripod is more than 3 times heavier. Many generals will use these tripods to prove their strength. He himself can lift the first 4, but when it comes to the 5th one, he can't lift it anyway. I want to challenge Guan Yu to see who can lift more. Guan Yu is not afraid at all. He stepped forward and easily lifted the first one. Many generals watched him lift the first one and it was nothing. Reaction: this is the first level for a military commander. If you can't even lift the first top, then you don't deserve to be called a military commander. But Guan Yu's next actions shocked them all. Guan Yu did not mention the first step. Putting down one tripod, he took the first one to lift the second one, and stacked the two tripods together in front of many people. Under such circumstances, he only used one hand. Three Kingdoms, I Have a Job Transfer Palace. Author, Strong Wine Burns the Heart. Chapter 789. Guan Yu held two cauldrons in his hands and walked towards the third cauldron amidst exclamations. He looked so at ease that many generals were frightened. You must not force yourself. If all these things are put on you, your internal organs may be damaged. We don't want your blood to be splattered on the spot just for a competition. Someone on the side reminded Guan Yu not to mess around. If he accidentally loses his life, no one here will be responsible for it. Even Lu Xing, who was competing with Guan Yu, didn't know what to do at this time. Thoughts: even he didn't dare to hold one tripod to find another one. He lifted one, put it down for a while, and then lifted another one. Although the competition has not officially ended yet, Guan Yu's performance has already made him admire. He fell to the ground and would never say no again. At this time, even other generals also expressed their admiration, because there were many generals who couldn't even lift the third one. They looked at two in their hands, and then Guan Yu picked up the third one easily without saying a word. You have already taken three at the same time. I can never do this to you. I give up. You don't a Euro trademark T have to take any more. Lu Xing hurriedly stepped forward at this time. He could no longer watch from the side shamelessly. The opponent was so strong. What else could he say? But Guan Yu ignored him at all and continued to move forward. As he walked forward, he stacked all the tripods one after another. The construction methods of these tripods are the same, so they can be stacked together like bowls. In full view of everyone, Guan Yu lifted all 9 tripods. Song Litsong, who originally had a wait-and-see attitude, couldn't sit still at this time. She quickly walked down from her dragon chair. She never expected that there was such a powerful person beside Lu Feng. He originally thought that he was just a Huang Zhong was enough to shock him for half a year, but he didn't expect that the other one would be as good as him. He probably wouldn't be able to live in peace for the whole year. It is really a pity that such a powerful person is not my subordinate. Song Litsong sighed sadly, watching Guan Yu lift the Juding and become a hero in everyone's eyes. Unfortunately, he was not in this person's eyes. Jia Sidao quickly stood next to Song Litsong at this time. If your majesty wants this person to surrender to the Song dynasty, it will not be difficult. There is no man in the world who cannot be moved by beautiful women, gold, silver, and treasures. Even if he is not moved by these two things, as long as your majesty gives him high enough rights, I believe he will also be willing to surrender. Men, Arena Euro trademark T they just for these 3 things. Jia Sidao actively stood up to help Song Litsong solve problems at this time. Since His Majesty the Emperor wanted this person to become his minister, he would come up with strategies and provide advice. You're right. Why don't you personally give gifts to this general? No matter how many things you give, it doesn't matter, as long as it can make him tempted. Song Litsong felt that what Jia Sidao said was reasonable. Money, power, and beauty are the 3 things that are hard to resist. If you can use these 3 things to win over Guan Yu, then no matter how much you give, you can do it. 3 Kingdoms, I Have a Job Transfer Palace. Author, Strong Wine Burns the Heart. Chapter 790. Jia Sidao was very happy. If his idea could be reused, it meant that Song Litsong still liked him and he still saw a bright future for himself. Please rest assured, Your Majesty, I will definitely do a good job in this matter. It is just a matter of doing what you want. It is not a difficult task. Jiao Sidao slapped his chest in front of Song Litsong and promised that he would definitely take down Guan Yu and make Guan Yu a minister of Song Litsong and use him. Unfortunately, they didn't understand what kind of person Guan Yu was. What did Cao do for him back then? He had paid all, and even when he was eating, he would think about whether the meal was good today, but Guan Yu was still not tempted. There are not many people in the world who are as loyal and righteous as Guan Yu. His loyalty to Lu Feng is 100%, no one can shake this loyal minister. What a Euro trademark-s funny is that the monarch and his ministers thought that as long as they paid enough, they could win Guan Yu a Euro trademark-s loyalty. If Lu Feng knew about this idea, he would definitely regard it as the most loyal minister this year. What a funny joke. The emperor and his ministers were discussing behind, but Guan Yu in front didn't take it seriously. He lifted all 9 tripods in front of everyone, and then gently lowered them to the ground without any cracks. With such terrifying power, even the military commanders who have been on the battlefield for a long time did not dare to say that they could do this. They immediately surrounded him, expressed their admiration for Guan Yu, and very much hoped to become friends with Guan Yu. Maybe this is the military commander. The sympathy between them must be mutual. Guan Yu ignored them and said nothing. After putting down the tripod, he returned to Lu Feng. One step behind him, he stood like the most loyal sculpture, motionless. It seems that in his eyes, the only reason why it can move is because of Lu Feng. You can continue to compete. These 2 subordinates behind me are always with me. The generals looked at Guan Yu with unfinished expressions, as if they wanted to say something to him, but now Guan Yu has returned to his usual position and has become Lu Feng's most loyal guard. Lu Feng looked at the people below, very proud. He told them that if he wanted to continue the competition, of course he could, but it had nothing to do with how he had humiliated himself and affected his state of mind. General Ping Chuan joked, "Your subordinates are very strong, we are ashamed of ourselves, and we will only follow your lead in the future without any hesitation." With a general like Guan Yu, how can anyone still have an opinion against Lu Feng? Even his subordinates are so strong. As a master, Lu Feng must have his own merits. After Guan Yu showed off his skills like this, there will be no more people have opinions about him. I believe there will be no obstacles when Lu Feng leads his troops to send troops. Does anyone else have any objections to the General Ping Chuan I just named? The military generals are already convinced. Naturally, Song Litsong only needs to ask the civil servants on the side. These ministers are all self-righteous and unwilling to stand with the military generals. They are not interested in this competition. Now that the competition is over, the military generals I have no opinion, but the scornful look of these civil servants obviously still has the word dissatisfaction written all over it. If you don't think about it, they will also be dealt with. I'm afraid some people still don't recognize the imperial edict in the gift. There is a war in the front and trouble in the rear. For an army, not a good thing. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. 3 Kingdoms, I Have a Job Transfer Palace. Author, Strong Wine Burns the Heart. Chapter 791. Song Litsong personally took this imperial edict and stepped down from his throne and stood among the civil servants. These literati all have their own ideas, and even if it is what the emperor wants, they will try their best to oppose it, because they are the only ones who have the right to not be killed even if they speak against the emperor. If literati like him are killed, it proves that the current emperor does not listen to advice and is not a wise king. Therefore, many emperors have always hated these civil servants. Even if I have any opinions, what's the use? The man just raised all 9 cauldrons. Wasn't it to intimidate us ministers? If we objected, we would be beaten to death in the next second. Some people accused Guan Yu of his behavior just now in a weird way. They were not engaging in a legitimate competition, but warning them, the literati, not to talk too much. At this time, Lu Xing, who had just competed with Guan Yu, of course had opinions, and they were above board. Why did behavior change its taste when it entered the mouths of these literati? Nonsense, what we just did was clearly a legitimate competition for the future, how come it turned into a threat in your mouth? What Guan Yu did just now was because of me. Am I threatening you too? We have been ministers of the same court for so many years, and you actually said this to me. Lu Xing changed the subject and played the emotional card. This sudden operation stunned many literati. What he said was reasonable and very reasonable. Such an explanation would not make them like him. Well, nothing more to say. Don't a Euro trademark T think that the so-called generals are really just reckless men who don't a Euro trademark T understand anything. They are just too straightforward and usually don't a Euro trademark T bother to care about it. But if they really care about it, even if they are literati, they may not comparable. It seems that all of you have no objections, so from today on, all generals will obey Lu Feng's words. Do you understand? At this critical moment, Song Litsong also played a clever trick. He deliberately said that all military generals must obey Lu Feng's orders, but did not mention the civil and military officials. This means that various places are governed by civil servants. It will not be handed over to Lu Feng. In fact, 1/4 of the military power in the world is still in the hands of Song Litsong himself. During the Song dynasty, not all military power was managed individually by generals. Part of the military power will be handled by the prefects in each place. The corresponding responsible prefects belong to civil servants according to their scores. Lu Feng heard Song Litsong's cleverness, but he did not deliberately embarrass Song Litsong. Since the emperor wanted to be in his own hands, it was only Song Litsong's consideration for his own safety to retain the little military power, not to mention that there were only tens of thousands of people left, which Lu Feng might not value. Lu Feng did not leave the court until he took all the military power. Behind it, many people stared at him and started their own little calculations. Everyone started to take sides because of today's morning court. Of course. Part of their team thought that Lu Feng's military power did not matter at all, and the other part they believed that Lu Feng's background was unknown and that the most important power should not be handed over to him, as there would be immeasurable consequences. They were just ministers of Emperor Litsong of the Song dynasty, expressing their own opinions. 3 Kingdoms, I Have a Job Transfer Palace. Author, Strong Wine Burns the Heart. Chapter 792. Lu Feng, who has left, doesn't care what the civil and military officials behind him think. He came here to unify the world, not to watch their respective political struggles. Young master, those people are ignorant, do you want me to find a time to kill them all? Of course Huang Zhong and Guan Yu knew what the attitude of those behind him towards Lu Feng was. As loyal ministers, of course they were also unhappy with Lu Feng. Huang Zhong suggested that he might as well kill them all with one arrow at night. This world will belong to me sooner or later, so why do you need to make enemies at this time? They just don't realize what's wrong with them because of their own stupidity. Now we should fight off foreign troubles before we can deal with internal troubles. Lu Feng told them not to worry. Nowadays, the entire Song dynasty is suffering from internal and external troubles. Even if it is to kill the emperor at this time and use force to fight for the imperial power, there is no point. It is better to go from the outside to the inside and kill all the invaders who enter from outside. And then let everyone in the world know his name, and all the people will return to their hearts. Under such circumstances, even if Song Litsong wants to come up with something, it will be too late. You must know that in the previous world, this is what he did, all the people will return to their hearts, and no one will, only those who did not obey him could easily conquer the world, and even Song Zhezong took the initiative to issue a Zen throne. Only those who have read history books can truly understand how important the people's hearts are, and for those emperors, they enjoyed the unique privileges of being emperors and were not able to fulfill the corresponding obligations. Song Litsong was not a particularly good emperor in history. He was arbitrary and tyrannical in the court. The original method he wanted to use was to make people already the tired southern Song dynasty regained its glory, but due to improper use of methods, his head was cut off and used as a wine cup. It can be seen that as an emperor, he wanted to be arbitrary in the court, and what the final result was. It was terrible. And he doted on the sycophant Geosideo very much, which led to Geosideo ceding land in his name. All the land north of the Yangtze River was ceded by Song Litsong. His only achievement in this life was to find Mongolia as his own coalition to destroy the Jin kingdom. Such behavior is tantamount to seeking the skin of a tiger, and in fact it still cannot solve the problems of the Song dynasty. Lu Feng knew very well that this emperor was not a useful talent, and he was arbitrary and tyrannical in the court, which also caused him to lose the heart of his own ministers, so no civil servants and generals have truly surrendered to him so far. It couldn't be easier to get the world under this man's rule. No longer paying attention to the complexity of the court, Lu Feng took Guan Yuhe and Huang Zhong headed to a military camp on the outskirts of Beijing as quickly as possible. The people stationed here were special. They did not belong to Yingtian Mansion or the emperor, but they had never been on the battlefield. They seemed to have no one to manage them. The lonely souls have been stationed near the suburbs of Beijing. They receive military pay every month and either drink or go to the flower house. Even if they don't train soldiers every month, no one will criticize them harshly. As long as they don't cause trouble to the people, even Jing Zhaoyan will not pay attention to them. This army is called Jingzhao Guards, which is of the same lineage as the Forbidden Army. The personnel in this army are selected from the Forbidden Army that guards the palace. Their foundation is quite good. Every one of them is a very suitable warrior for fighting.